Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Becca and today I have Becca's Bookopoly round 39. So if you guys are unfamiliar with Bookopoly at all, this is a TBR game that I play. Every space on this board, which is based on Monopoly, has a prompt on it, and I roll 2 6-sided die, move around the board, and I have to pick books that fulfill the prompts. If this is the first time that you're seeing Bookopoly, I will put a link up here to January's round, which has a full tour of the 2022 board, as well as a recap of the rules, and the full Bookopoly playlist, including all 39 rounds, will be linked in the description box if you want to go and check that out. So this round of Bookopoly is going to be just a tiny bit different, but before we get into that, let's see how I did in the last round of Bookopoly, which was February's round. So these are the books that were on February's Bookopoly. There was a fifth as well, but I read it, didn't like it, and have already unhauled it. But we had Ruin of Kings by Jen Lyons, which was to read a fantasy, Glint by Raven Kennedy, which was to read a sequel, City of Dragons by Robin Hobb was also a fantasy, and we had a third fantasy roll in February, which was The Shadowed Sun by N.K. Jemisin, and then the final book on the Bookopoly TBR was Host of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas, and this was for a community shelf prompt, which was to reread a favourite. I am happy to say that I've read both of these. It's been 2 months since I've done Bookopoly, and it was quite a short stack, but I successfully managed to get through it. So this round of Bookopoly is going to be a little bit different because it's going to cover 2 months, which are April and May. I'm not sure if I'm going to make this a regular thing where I do it bi-monthly as opposed to monthly, but in both April and May I have a couple of trips, which I think adds up to around a week and a half to 2 weeks across the 2 months, and it is also my birthday at the beginning of May. I don't have anything planned for that, but I anticipate there will be some sort of trip slash extended activity that happens there as well, which will further take my time away from reading. So I decided, instead of putting extra pressure on myself, I would relieve it a little bit and do this round to cover both April and May. And because this round of Bookopoly is covering both April and May, I've decided to start with a base of 6 rolls instead of 5, as that splits evenly as like 3 books per month if that's the way that I choose to actually read them. Now, I wasn't originally going to post a separate April TBR, however I am participating in 2 readathons in the month of April, which are Realmathon, created by Covers with Cassidy, which I'm a co-host for, and also the Magical Readathon hosted by G over at Book Roast. So as I have 2 month-long readathons that I'm participating in, the books that I'm reading for April have to be Tetrised carefully to fit into that, all of my content plans that I already had, and the 3 trips that I have in April. So I'm not going to be talking about the readathons and what books I'm reading for what prompts in this video, as I've decided that I'm going to be posting a separate April TBR that will be coming shortly after this one. So without further ado, let us get into my first roll for April and May. Okay, so last month we ended on romance. First roll is a 6. Ooh, scroll through Goodreads. So for roll number 1, Bookopoly has already chosen chaos because the prompt that we landed on is to scroll through Goodreads. Now for this one, I have to go to my Goodreads homepage and I have to scroll until I find a book that I own but I have not read, and that is the book that I have to read. The first one on there that I own and have not read, with exceptions being if it's the second book in a series and I haven't read the first one, and just like common sense things like that. Okay, 5 Little Pigs, do not own that. Lots of Agatha Christie on here. I feel like that's Gavin's influence. Traitor's Kiss, do not own it. Pachinko, do not own it. Already read Fortuna Swan. Oh, The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. I do not own that one, but I'm slightly interested in it. Already read Kingdom of the Wicked. No. Already read Sadie. Oh, I do want to read from Sophie Locke, but I don't own any of her books. I've already read the Bromance Book Club. More Agatha Christie, wow. Do not own Clap When You Land. Oh my days, oh my days. Fires of Vengeance. At the time of filming this, I haven't read it, but I am going to have read it before April, or am I? No, I am. I'm trying to get that finished. That will be the last book that I read in March. I'm getting nervous now because this is taking so long. Oh, I do want to read a Sierra Simone book sometime soon, and it is on like an immediate TBR. So it's going to be in a video that you see in the middle of April, but that is not the Sierra Simone book I have down. Oh, Wheel of Time, but it's book 10. Haven't started Wheel of Time yet. That was like a near miss. Already read Oliver's Villains. Oh, can I read this? Is this out yet? Nope, I think that is a pre-order incentive. The Golden Couple by Gray Hendricks. I do actually own this one. The Golden Couple by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. I 100% did not anticipate this being the book that made it onto the TBR. And full disclosure, after this book was picked, I did carry on scrolling, and now I'm real salty because the next one that came up that I own and haven't read would have been The Spanish Love Deception, which is a book that I'm really excited to read. But The Golden Couple is one of the Book of the Month picks. I think it was for February, and it is a thriller about this seemingly perfect couple. However, the wife cheats and the couple decide to go to couples therapy, but the therapist they choose has some unconventional practices and has actually had their professional license revoked. That's all I know about this. It's a thriller, so I don't want to know too much. Mad that this is on here because it could have been The Spanish Love Deception, but it's only 329 pages, so it's a short one. I imagine it'll be quite a fast-paced read because it's a thriller, or even if the pacing isn't fast, hopefully because it's a thriller there's something that will keep me turning pages. That's pretty much all I ask for from a thriller, and a good twist if it's a twisty one. Roll number 2 is an 8. Most recent purchase. For roll number 2, we landed on most recent purchase, which is always a fun one. And the most recent books that have come into my possession were part of a Waterstones order, and they are Memory of Souls by Jen Lyons and You and Me on Vacation, or People We Met on Vacation by Emily Henry. 2 very different books, but 2 books I'm also very excited to read. I kind of want to add this, but it's like really chunky. This is book 3 in the Chorus of Dragons series. It is 751 pages, and I have pretty much read the first 2 books back to back, so it would be nice to get book 3 on here. But then this one is a much easier read, and I do kind of want to read this before the end of May anyway, because I'm going to a festival that Emily Henry is going to be at. So I think I'm gonna go with You and Me on Vacation. One of the reasons I picked this up is because Aaron from Booked and Busy kind of recommended it to me. She said it was her favorite romance of, I think, 2021, and it's also Friends to Lovers, which is a trope that I really love if it's done well, and I believe that it is done well in here. So this one follows 2 best friends across 12 years, and I think we see them on every vacation they've taken together over these 12 years, and it's a Friends to Lovers story. The synopsis reminds me a lot of One Day by David Nichols, which is one of my favorite books ever, and I'm expecting really good things. Roll number 3 is a 7. Oh, a book from my 30 before 30 list. So for roll number 3, I landed on 30 before 30, which means I have to pick a book from the video I made last year, which features a list of books that I would like to read before I turn 30. So I wasn't really sure what I was feeling from this list, so I just decided to carry on with Lord of the Rings, and I'm going to be reading, or more accurately listening to the audiobook of The Two Towers by J.R.R. Tolkien. So this one is obviously a fantasy staple, and it follows a group of unlikely heroes who have banded together to get the One Ring to Mordor so that they can destroy it. I struggle with Lord of the Rings. I've tried many different formats. I've tried reading it physically, I've tried watching the movies, I've listened to the audiobooks, and I cannot get this story to stick in my brain. I actually can't explain it at this point because I've even tried the movies and I still remember absolutely nothing about what the storyline of Lord of the Rings is. But what I will say is that the Andy Serkis audiobooks are amazing, and even though I really struggle to retain this story, I had a really great time listening to the audio for the Fellowship of the Ring. So I'm going to listen to the Andy Serkis narration of The Two Towers. I'm not reviewing these books on my channel because of how much I do really struggle with them, and I've read complicated dense books, I've read classics, and I've had very little trouble with them, but this story specifically, just I can't do it. And the reason why I do want to read this, even though I struggle so much with the story, is because I'm interested in reading kind of like the building blocks of fantasy, because something I really like when I'm reading modern fantasy is being able to trace things like tropes back to their origins. I've read the first few books in the Earthsea series by Ursula K. Le Guin, and it's interesting when reading more modern fantasy how many things you can recognize that Ursula K. Le Guin pretty much invented in the books of Earthsea. I imagine there's similar things going on with the Lord of the Rings, and that's the reason why I want to read this one. Roll number 4. 5. Oh my god. Viewer recommends. So roll number 4 was another chaotic one. We landed on viewer recommendation. So for this one, I go to a video that I make every year in December, which is my entire own TBR. For this one, I'll be using the 2021 version. And on that video, I always ask you guys to recommend me any books that you see in that video that you would like me to read. When we land on this square, I get a random YouTube comment generator, and I have to read whatever is in the comment. Some people comment quite a few books, so I have something to pick from. and some people only put one book per comment, which forces me to read whatever it is that comes up. So this could be absolutely anything I own. I'm a little bit scared. Let's go. Sorry for the strobe. Oh, it's Bobby. Oh, Bobby. I did not see. Shit, Bobby chose violence. Bobby chose violence, oh no. So the book that Bobby recommended for me was Malice by John Gwynne. This is the first book in the Faithful and the Fallen. I've heard amazing things about this. I really do want to read this series, but the books are chunky. I'm in the middle of a whole ton of other adult fantasy series right now, but what I will say is I'm really glad that I went with People We Meet on Vacation instead of Memory of Souls, because otherwise I'd be really scared of this TBR right now. So I know very little about this. I'm pretty sure it's multi-perspective. I think that the cast of characters is quite large, and it has something to do with a war between giants and humans. That is the extent of my knowledge, but I have heard it's very good and I've been recommended this book a lot, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to enjoy it. Roll number 5. Is he 6 again? Which is a science fiction. So for roll number 5, we landed on Sci-fi. This is the one that I asked my patrons to vote on for the month, and I gave them 4 options. The first one of those was Sunreach by Brandon Sanderson, which is the first of the Skyward novellas that I need to read before I can pick up book 3. The second one was Aurora's End by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. This one is the final book in the Aurora cycle. The third option was The Shattered World by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner, which is the second book in, I think the series is called Starbound. This one's YA. And the final choice was Stormblood by Jeremy Saul, which is a book that was sent to me by the author last November that I really want to read because the author sold it to me as being like heavily inspired by Red Rising, which is one of my favorite series ever. So the winner of the poll with 72 votes was Aurora's End by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. I did have a feeling it was either this or the Skyward novella that was going to win, but this one is the final book in a YA space opera trilogy where we are following Squad 312. Squad 312 were assembled under like unconventional circumstances, as the leader of their squad was supposed to finish top of his class. However, when he was doing last minute flight practice on the day of his graduation ceremony, he discovered the wreckage of a 100 or 200-year-old ship that had been traveling from Earth into space. He found a girl on there and brought her back, making him late for his graduation. So then, instead of having the pick of the graduating class like he thought he would, he has to assemble a crew from the dregs. The second book had a very interesting end, and I feel like I know how they're going to fix it. So I guess in Aurora's End we'll find out if I'm right. This is just like a really fun series. If you've read Illuminate by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman, it's pretty much the same. Although I will say I do prefer Illuminate slightly more, but when I finish this, I'll have finished a series, which is always great. And what will hopefully be our final roll number 6, is a double. So another sci-fi. I jinxed it by doing 6 rolls. I feel like I was really tempting fate adding that 6th roll, because up until now we had no doubles, but we had to get one in there at the 11th hour. But we landed on sci-fi again. There is a ton of sci-fi that I really want to read because it doesn't come up very often, and I definitely read a lot more fantasy than I do sci-fi. But to do myself a little bit of a favor and make some progress in a different series, I'm going to be reading Sunreach by Brandon Sanderson. So this one is the first Skyward novella. I believe that there's a bind-up that's coming at the beginning of April, which I'll definitely be getting my hands on. I have no idea what any of these novellas are about. I just know that I need to read them before I can pick up Slytonic. Skyward by Brandon Sanderson is about a young girl called Spencer who wants nothing more than to join the flight academy on the planet where she lives. However, her father was branded as a deserter when she was quite young, and because of this, everyone who is in power on this planet is going to do anything they can to stop Spencer from being able to join the flight academy. Really enjoyed book 1. Didn't love book 2 as much. I don't typically like novellas, but I'm gonna read them and hope that I enjoy book 3 a little bit more than I enjoyed book 2. Once again, hopefully our final roll number 7. 6. Which is a romance. And for our final roll number 7, I landed on romance. And for this one, I'm going for something which might seem like a little bit of an odd choice, but all will become clear in the middle of April. But I'm going to be reading The Deal by Elle Kennedy, which is a very popular sports romance. I've heard a lot about this over the years, but it's only recently that I started getting into contemporary romance. So I thought it was about time that I read this one. I've stayed away from it because I don't like sports, so I doubt I'll like sports romance, but I feel like if I'm gonna start somewhere, this is a good one to go with because of how popular it is. It's the first book in the off-campus series, which I think are all hockey romances, and this one includes the fake dating trope. I believe that's all I know about this. It's only 347 pages. I'm pretty sure it's available on Scribd, and we'll see if I enjoy it. So here is the full stack of books plus the deal and also Sunreach, and this actually adds up to 2,691 pages, which is really manageable. Like, there's a lot of books on here, but the majority of them, aside from these two, are all like 350 pages or less, which is unusual for me because normally I end up with a smaller stack of really chunky books. So I think I can do it. I think even if this was a month TBR, I could do it. Obviously, we do have a couple of spanners in the works. I have plans for content through April and May that involve me reading certain books, and we do of course have Realmathon and Magical Readathon with those TBRs still to come. So maybe I shouldn't be quite as confident as I'm feeling right now, but this isn't a bad stack. So that is it for my April and May Bookopoly TBR. Please, as usual, let me know down in the comments if you read any of these books and what you thought of them. But aside from that, guys, please don't forget to like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you wanna. If you head into my description box, you'll find a link to my Goodreads, Instagram and Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those, as well as a link to my Bookish candle website, the Instagram for that, and a 10% off discount code. But that's it from me today, guys. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you will go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.